Okay, here we are in the raft. This right here is an obstacle that can be destroyed with synergy attacks. That's using the ZR button. So we notice that this has two symbols on it. These symbols are what I would call a synergy tag. And when you go into the team menu, you're going to see these symbols on your skills. This particular skill is telling me that I'm going to need Rocket Groot for the explosive, and I'm going to need Gamora for the slam. So I'll get the two of them lined up here, and then I'll hold down ZR, hit the button with the corresponding symbol on it, and I should be good to go. Those things do get weird sometimes and don't work right. I've had them bug out on me on numerous occasions.
Now can we finally get out of here?
Here's another one of those walls. Once again, we want Rocket Groot and Gamora. And I'm going to switch back to Rocket Groot. Try to always do it with the person that has the symbol on the left. Don't know if that makes a difference or not, but I try not to tempt it to mess with me too much, because those things can be a pain if they don't want to work. Alright, we have got the gel portion of this. And I always wonder where all these guys got the little Wolverine hand claws. I mean, it's like everybody's all armed up with this stuff. They're in jail. What's up with that? You'd think they'd remove those things, or that they wouldn't have access to them. Okay, so we have a chest coming up here on the left. We want to be sure to get this chest right here. We got an XP box out of there. And we'll see another hallway like this very shortly. And it's also going to have a treasure chest, but it's going to be on the right behind one of those synergy walls. Here's where we're introduced to Spider-Man. If you'll notice, he's joined our team here. So this is a good time for me to bring up abilities that disable. So you can see Spider-Man's able to put webs on characters. When a character has webs on them, they're disabled, and every hit against that character will be a critical hit. And that's the same as having a character staggered. All hits become critical on a staggered character. All hits become critical on a stunned character. So stunning and staggering characters in this game is huge. So that character's staggered, everything I do to him is going to be big damage. Those things that were hitting for 1500, now they'll hit for 600. Just turns all your stuff into crits when they're staggered. So that's a great time to drop your big damage. And once again, getting rid of the stagger on an enemy, the best ways to do that are with a skill that has a high stagger grade. It's usually a charge skill, which is going to be a skill that has a symbol that looks like a little blue man leaning in with his shoulder. The other thing that generally works good to get rid of the stagger bar is a heavy attack, and that does vary from character to character. Some characters do pretty good even with light attacks, like Hulk or Luke Cage. Then other characters barely do any stagger damage no matter what kind of attack you're doing. So those are the only characters I generally worry about the crit rating on, which that's something that'll come later on. Right now we don't need to be worried about any of that. So for right now, just know that charges and heavy attacks are generally the way to get rid of that purple lower bar, and that when you get rid of that, that's going to allow you to critical hit constantly while they're in that state. So you can see we need a whirlwind and a barrage. So whirlwind is our man Star-Lord, and barrage is Drax. So I'll get them lined up in here real close to each other, get back on Star-Lord, and I'll use ZR to cast that skill, and we'll get that door open. Alright, we got another solid XP cube. I'm going to be using those on Star-Lord shortly. If there's one character in this game that I would suggest you level, that's the one. Because when he hits 15, I'm telling you, he's a beast. Really good. Okay, we've got one more box. We don't want to forget about it. It's right here. Okay, now we're going to go into the team menu. It's going to make me look at leveling up abilities. I care nothing about leveling up my ability right now because I want to save my ability leveling stuff for later. But what I do want to do is get back in here and press Y to use my XP cubes. I'll dump all these onto Star-Lord. Oops. And when I do that, it's going to get me to 9 and about 7/8. I should hit level 10 during this fight, and that's going to allow me to do synergy damage to enemies. So it's going to be cool. Now, this Sandman fight is actually pretty well designed in my opinion. I really like it. We got Sandman here. Okay, we got to shoot this cannon. It's going to solidify him. He's got several attacks. Right now his hand is that big mace. That only does damage right in front of his body, so you don't have to worry about that if you're back here. Now that one, when you see him doing that, if he's looking towards you, you want to get out of the way because he's coming at you with that sand. He's got some other attacks, which we'll see shortly here. Want to kill these minor enemies, get them out of the way, because they will get in the way of you using the cannon like you want to. We'll just get back on the cannon. It really doesn't matter who I'm using right here. I'm hoping we get to see his other attacks. He'll turn his hand into a hammer. When he does that, you just want to jump when he hits the ground to keep from being stunned. And then he's got another one where he plunges his hand into the ground. And when he does that, his hand will pop up in another location. You want to watch for the ground giving the indication of where his hand's going to pop back up, because that one will do some damage. There's the hammer attack. I knew it would eventually show up, and then he's got that big sandblast attack too. Now, one thing to know, when you dodge, you're more or less invulnerable. Actually, you are invulnerable when you dodge. So you can see I was off the ground when the hammer hit, so I didn't take any damage from that hammer. So dodging is super important because it just allows you to not take damage. If you see a beam or something on the screen, the normal thing to try to do is run away from it, but honestly what you really want to do in this game, if you see somebody shooting a beam, is actually dodge toward the beam, go through the beam so that you're on the other side of it, and then once you're on the far side of the beam, you're in good shape. Okay, so Drax decided he was going to man that cannon and that I was not going to, which is fine. At least he's helping out. Okay, we're watching for his hand. His hand popped up on the other side, so we're good. Here's our self-synergy with Star-Lord I was telling you about. You can see all those pretty yellow numbers we got popping up there. It's because I can set my whirlwind on fire. You just do the whirlwind skill, then do the fire skill, aiming it into the whirlwind, and you get a fire whirlwind. It's what we call a self-synergy. Okay, so we officially have Spider-Man, Captain America, Iron Man, Hulk, Thor, Falcon, and Captain Marvel on the roster, as well as Scarlet Witch and Black Widow. And Wolverine. Lots of characters added here. Crystal. Okay. So we picked up all those characters. This is where you actually put your team together for the first time. So before we continue through the raft here, I'm going to take one quick moment and just talk about building your team, because we're going to change some team members. But I am going to make a suggestion. So I would suggest that you put either Thor, who will pick up a charge very shortly, or Captain America, or Hulk, or Captain Marvel on your team, and use them as a team leader to start with. The reason being is that they have a charge, so that will allow you to stagger enemies easier. Now Thor doesn't have a charge yet, but he's going to pick one up real quick. We'll look at this real quick just to show you what I'm talking about. So that's Star-Lord. If you press ZR, it shifts right through. So right now he just has a shock move. Hulk just has a slam, and Wolverine just has a barrage. So actually that was a really bad illustration there, because I don't have anybody with a charge yet. Luke Cage will be coming up in a moment, and I may put him on the team. Let's put somebody on for just a moment that has a charge so we can look at him. Like I said, Captain Marvel and Captain America are two considerations that do have a charge. Alright, there's the charge, the little guy rushing over with his shoulder down. So that's what will do the most stagger damage. And if you look at it, you can see on the screen here where it says charge, and it has a stagger grade of B, and that's about as good as you're going to find on a base unleveled skill. So that means he's good at getting rid of the purple bar. Now the reason Hulk and Thor also work good is because their heavy attacks are also very good at getting rid of the purple bar, much like Drax's heavy attack was. Wolverine is pretty well balanced. He doesn't do amazing stagger damage, but he does good stagger damage. He also does good HP damage. Now this is where you encounter the first rift. You press A to interact. We're not going to be going into any of these rifts because this is just walking through the story mode. But if you just at least go up there and press A and then back out with B, it will be unlocked if you go to the menu screen.
You should be able to reach the control tower from here. If you can avoid triggering the defense system, you should be fine.
Now I do recommend switching heroes. Especially you got somebody like Star-Lord who has that fire ability. Once you get him spraying that fire, it's a perfect time to switch to another character and have them do something.
Security network. They're in control of all the raft's heavy weaponry.
Ooh. It happens to everybody. Alright, we got a room full of guys here. There's really no reason for us to not just go nuts with some EX attacks. You know, I could have used them a little more intelligently, sure, but I like to party. What can I say? And it'll turn out fine, trust me. Alright, you can see our team made pretty quick work of those guys. But we don't want to leave just yet because there's a box over here. I want to go get the box. We got XP in there. We're going to need all that XP. Especially if we're not running rifts. Here's one of the first puzzle door things. Okay, let me see. I'm trying to remember how I like to do this. Okay, it's not that one. There we go. That's what I like to do. At least I think that's right. Yeah, here we go. No. Guess it's not that one. There's a way to do this that maybe it's that way. Yeah, that's it. You got 4 characters, use them. It can be helpful to move from screen to screen. And I can't remember, one of these opens this door. There we go. And we can just walk right out. Once you get one character out, your entire team will come out. So don't sweat it. It's not so bad. Those things seem kind of complicated. And if you let your whole team stick together, they are more difficult. They're still possible, but if you can wiggle around and get your people on opposite sides of doors, it usually will make it a lot easier because you have options to hit switches that you otherwise wouldn't be able to hit. Alright, so we took those guys down. I believe there is a treasure chest over here we want to go get. Alright, we got our solid XP cube out of there. One of the things I really like about Hulk on a first run through like this, you don't have that much energy and stuff yet, so you really have to rely on your basics more. And Hulk has really good basic abilities. His heavy attack tosses characters back. His light attack pushes characters back. His jump attack, you know, it pushes, it knocks characters into the air. So he's got tons of crowd control in his regular attacks for minor enemies. Now obviously these guys with stagger bars, he doesn't crowd control, but if you'll notice he does a good amount of damage to their stagger bar with his regular attacks. So don't underestimate the value of that. Now Thor's also very good at staggering enemies. He just doesn't have quite as much crowd control. Alright, so we'll jump over to Thor and I'll show you what I'm talking about. So his heavy attack is ranged. And if I were doing this to small characters, I might have some crowd control. I'll have to see. Alright. Basically right now we just want to do some damage to this guy. Our EXs are all charged up. Let's just get after him here. That'll stun him and should do a good amount of damage. Alright, we knocked him out easy enough. So the trick to Venom is we want to get him staggered as soon as possible. That's one of the reasons I didn't hesitate to use our EX attack on the other guy, Electro, there. Because once you get Venom staggered, he's generally not very hard to beat. He usually jumps up on the wall. I've seen exceptions where he's acted weird and stayed on the ground a lot. But he's supposed to jump up on the wall so that we can use these wires to defeat him. Okay, there we go. He's going to act normal this time, so that's good. Now he'll target somebody on your team. If you get him, okay, good. He's going to target me, so I can roll out of the way. And if you can see here, he is staggered by the electrical wires being shorted that set off the alarm. So all we want to do is get some stagger damage on him again. So I strongly recommend just using heavy attacks on him, and he'll go back up there on the wall. Okay, we really need Hulk to move, and he didn't. So we may have to stagger him the old-fashioned way this time. It's not a huge deal. It just means you're going to have to fight him in a more traditional fashion of getting his stagger down and then trying to put the damage on. So there's the stagger. There's the stun, and I hopefully I got close enough for that to synergize. And that should do it right there. It's a really strong team I've got put together right here. Okay, now Venom is available for play. I wouldn't suggest putting him on a team. If you play Heroic View, he's not too bad, but you have to be aware that his stagger, while it's a strong staggering move, it hits in multiple hits, and it's very difficult to target it well. You got to be the right distance and be lined up just perfect with the person you're trying to hit for it to land. The AI does a pretty good job at playing him, but if you're trying to play him yourself, he's pretty tricky to do a good job. Alright, so we got all these guys here. We'll put a nice fire tornado out here. Get some synergy damage going. Now we got a lightning tornado, which is cool. You can see Thor has a pretty good amount of crowd control as well. Thor is a beast in this game.
Let's make this count. I am not doing this a third time.
Okay, Luke Cage is a good character, but I just do not have any desire to put him on my team this time. Actually played through with him on my team not too long ago, and he is actually really good on the first time through. He has great stagger on his light attack, probably one of the better staggers on a light attack that I've seen, quite honestly. Okay, so let's see if we hit this button. I'm gonna lock that down. I like to try to get people in different sections. I find it's beneficial sometimes.
How come they can never make getting out of prison easy? Oh, right.
Alright, let's see if... I think this opens that top door where Thor's at. And it does. So we've got Thor up here. We can get the other box. And then we can walk right out. So if you do that way, that is the easiest way I found to do it. And, you know, Wolverine, get back here, man. Oh, good grief. This game can really be a pain in the butt sometimes when it comes to stuff like this. I was wanting to open this wall right here, but it's going to be like herding cats trying to get these guys back here to do this. I'll probably just have to kill this enemy first, because if I don't, I'm never going to be able to get the guys to come back here and stand still long enough to do this. And I actually just used the attack that opens the door to kill that guy, just to see if it would do both. And it did. So we got our artwork out of there. We just got some minor enemies here. see Thor's jump attack knocks people into the air. See if his heavy attack does anything to minor enemies. It does. It knocks them back. So he has a good amount of crowd control built into his kit as well, just like Hulk does. Okay, we got a little boss fight coming up right here. We got these three folks that want to kill us for some reason. They're really elusive and good at interrupting you. Hulk does have a certain amount of resistance to being interrupted just built into his kit. You'll see him flash white sometimes. That's the reason he does that, because he is resisting being interrupted by the enemy. Alright. That should take both of them down. And now we just need to get her. We should be able to do that fairly easily here. Okay. That's stage one of that fight. Then we get this interesting looking guy walking up, turning into different people and stuff. And then we have to fight these guys again. This time we do have to get their health bar down. More or less to the end. Switch to Wolverine.
Nuts when bad guys attack. Well, at least my other powers are still working.
Don't buy into their ruse. These guys belong behind bars, just like all their criminal pals.
More or less, just want to do heavy attacks, get their stagger bar down. It's not really a hard fight. It's just one that can be irritating because they jump all over the place. They're teleporting all the time, and some of those webs and stuff can stun you or knock you around. But once you start making a dent in them, they go down pretty quick.
One more and you get a treat, Lockjaw.
So we got all those behind us now,
This is totally what oppression looks like.
and
I demand a phone call, a lawyer, and a fair trial.
now we get to fight Mysterio. So the thing you need to know about Mysterio, his mechanics are fairly simple, but he can be a giant pain. I'm going to use Thor for him just because the distance on his heavy attack. And Hulk has a lot of distance on his heavy attack too. It helps you avoid stuff like that right there. And the other thing he does, he puts out smoke. So you see the gray smoke. The gray smoke slows you down. And I mean, it slows you down a lot. And then there's the green smoke. The green smoke is awful. That stuff actually damages you and completely paralyzes you. You can't attack, you can barely move. It's pretty terrible. Really debilitating stuff. If you don't have somebody with some range, like Star-Lord or Thor here that I'm using, it's really problematic to deal with that stuff. Okay, now he's gonna multiply himself, and we'll find him pretty easily there. And that's Mysterio. Like I said, he's not really that hard. Just stay out of that smoke. You don't want to get in that stuff. You get in there, you just you get upset. Alright, we got Miles Morales and Spider-Gwen and Miss Marvel. Miss Marvel is probably one of the easiest characters to get through the game with. She has a couple of skills that combine really well with other skills and are really powerful, but I find it a little bit boring. And then Miles Morales, I really enjoy playing Miles Morales. He has a skill at level 15 that allows him to put webs on the ground that are electric, and you can switch characters and get all kinds of good synergies with that stuff. So it's a lot of fun. But I'm going to try to keep this playthrough pretty simple. So I'm going to concentrate on these tankier characters who can actually take a hit, and also that are less dependent on their energy reserve. Because when you got a really good heavy attack that can stagger, you don't need your skills nearly as much as you do on other characters. Other characters, you need a lot more knowledge of what you're doing to be effective with them. With characters like Thor and Hulk, you can, to a large extent, just kind of beast your way through the game. You know, they'll still get killed, don't get me wrong. You see a big red orb like that? Go pick it up if you're dead. You know what would be fun right here is an EX attack. When Star-Lord gets his shock attack, a room like this, you can just clear it easily. I haven't spent much time talking about Wolverine. He's very balanced. He's got a lot of synergies with other characters.
Whatever's going down inside the tower, we'll help you stop it. We owe you that much.
And at some point, Thor will be able to lightning charge him, which will make Wolverine do a little extra damage. We got a boss fight coming up here. Every time you cross one of those blue shield emblems on the ground, that means your progress is auto-saved. You can quit your game if you pause and go to System and go to Quit Game. It's going to warn you that you're going to lose progress. You only lose any progress that has happened since you crossed one of those blue shield symbols on the ground. Every time you cross one of those, it saves your progress. If you hit continue, you will continue from that point. And then also, if you go into the chapter select portion of the menu, you're going to be able to go right to any of those that you have crossed in the past. So anytime you've ever crossed one of those, it put down a marker. You can get back to that particular one at any point that you need to do that. Just trying to get this guy staggered. Let's get him staggered. Try to do a synergy attack, which I somehow managed not to get any synergy damage on him, but it is what it is. Happens sometimes when you're playing with AI characters. They're really bad at aiming. There we go. We'll get some synergy damage on him this time. Gets him stunned, and you can do some actual damage. This next time I get him stunned, we'll just go in and use the EX and melt him down. I might even just use 2 and see where we're at. There's a good amount of damage there. Nothing wrong with that. Okay, one thing I will say too is be very careful when enemies are charging and they're near walls. A lot of those charges have AoE on them, and when they're next to a wall, the damage just doesn't stop. You're just like that right there. You can end up taking tons of damage. Now on the flip side of that, Hulk is going to get a charge, And you can do that to enemies. If an enemy is trapped next to a wall, you can get on Hulk, you can charge that enemy, and they are going to go down hard. Alright, let's go into Star-Lord here. I want to level him up to 15 for this fight. Hopefully it's going to come in handy. We'll see if it does. That's that ability I was talking about, amped up. That is easily my favorite skill that he has. I'm going to go ahead and get it up here to where it at least adds shock to my own attacks. And let's go ahead and reduce the cost of that. That's just going to make him a lot more effective. While we're at it, we might as well look at some of these other skills. I don't really use Hulk Smash that much, so we're not going to do much with it. And with Wolverine, we will reduce the cost of his Claw Strike. Not going to commit to the damage on that one just yet, though. Okay, so the mechanics of this fight are pretty simple. Dr. Octopus is going to come down in the center of this thing. We're going to get a tentacle in each corner, and you just want to kill each tentacle, and then once you get the tentacles killed, you should be able at that point to attack Dr. Octopus himself. Right, we've got the damage on a couple of these tentacles already. We just need a couple more. That one's good. Last one. There we go. I saved a couple of EX attacks for this stage. Didn't get him all the way down, but that's pretty good. Alright, Star-Lord's super handy for this stage. And you can see that is the end of Dr. Octopus. Easy. And one thing this game does not lack, especially in certain stages, is boss battles. We are right out of the Doc Ock fight and going into Green Goblin fight. We are crossing this little guy right here, so we have a save point right there. We can get back to this spot anytime we want. And there's the Green Goblin. Okay, this is pretty easy fight too. Sometimes it takes some patience, just depending on how crazy he is. But you can see I just hit him with a bomb. It took half his stagger bar. So you can damage him right now. You can damage him either by traditionally attacking him like you normally would, or you can damage him by throwing his own bombs back at him. And I usually try to do a combination of those things. If you do use the bombs, just try to use them as quickly as you can, because he has a real fascination with blowing them up right after he's put them down. And of course, once they start flashing real fast, don't bother trying to pick them up, because he's going to end up detonating those and doing damage to you. And you can see he flies around. Don't feel bad about missing him. It's really not a big deal. You have plenty of chances to throw bombs at that guy. So my suggestion is quantity over quality. I mean, quality's great. It's good to get the direct hit on him. And save your EX attack for stage 2 of the fight.
The kind of power I've always dreamed of. Power worthy of Norman.
When he freezes time like this, you might want to dodge. He's probably hatching an evil scheme to hit you with these rockets. And I'll be lucky if I can get this thrown before I get blown up. And I did not. Yeah, I was afraid of that. Like I said, this is the harder stage of this fight. You can see I can actually just put that synergy tornado in front of him. It did do a decent amount of damage. Alright, we're going to EX this guy while we got him down. And hopefully do a decent amount of damage. Doubt we'll get him finished here, but it's going to be enough that I'm going to be tempted to try to finish him just with regular attacks instead of bombs. As you can see, every time you pick something up, he's going to zip around the room. Be generally disagreeable. It's like, where'd he go? You can see there that tornado and just shooting him has done enough damage to where he's almost dead. So definitely don't underestimate just standard attacks once you get him low. There we go, got him. And that's why I suggest saving the EX for the second half, because it gets increasingly difficult to hit with those bombs. So once you get him stunned once, try to nail him with the good EX attack, and then after that, maybe just get bombs when you can, but focus on just trying to kill him with attacks.
Nice.
Okay, that's the end of the raft. Hope you guys enjoyed.